My background is there to help me guide how I'm going to interact with your hook or the story beats. It's like, we come across we're in this cult. Hey, they're using this kid to summon force a demon. It's like, guys, we gotta kill the kid. It's like, no, we will never kill the kid. I will kill all of you before we kill the kid. And somewhere down the line, it's like, guys, I think this puppy is gonna turn into a monster. It's like, oh, I'll scare the puppy. You want me to do it right now? I see you're crying, but I can just do it right now.
The thing is, I've already sent my spear. So
I mean, I could cook it afterwards, Might as well not let it go to waste.
It had some meaty thighs.
Cut things right away and move the entirety of the recording.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's called a cold open. It's refreshing.
We already do the cold opens.
Literally, it's
with our highlights.
It's one button that I go click, click, and I go ripple delete, and then it's good.
Well, because you set it up on your keyboard to be one button.
Well, no, sorry. The one button is O. That does the select from
that
this
does
point.
the select, and then you have to right click and ripple delete. Or you could just ask me if you're ready. All right, fuck you. Tell me when.
Hey, we've been recording.
I assume. As
soon as you like,
I was almost certain. Yeah, I was almost certain. No, I'm pretty sure I was looking. I was pretty sure I was looking when it happened. Pretty certain.
Welcome to Take the Drama Rama.
Welcome to Take the Drama Brahma. Fucking hate you. This is so much better when you weren't here. Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav.
I'm Nix.
And I'm Graythorn.
And today's topic is character backstories.
Ooh.
Character backstories.
In what context are we talking about? Like, how do you want to jump into character backstories? Like, is it like from a DM perspective? How much do you care for your players to have a character backstory?
I mean, all of the topics under the umbrella. So it'd be, from a DM perspective of like what you require, what you would want, how you've done it before. Because we had that interesting way we did it in G&G. What you've been asked for, what you've been given. As a player, how much you like to give. How do you come up with it, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, this is a podcast of 3 DMs, so I think jumping straight in from a DM's perspective, I'll turn it to Gray. What do you expect of your players, backstory-wise?
Realistically, as long as you have something, and it could be as short as, my name is Buck, and I'm here to party. Like, that's fine. Like, as long as that backstory plays into Buck somehow, and you're in a tavern, and he starts partying with the people there, that's great. Because...
Sorry. I love the fact that you did the dub voice change for that scene.
You have to.
I know.
That's what makes it good when you watch it on television.
If I was to DM and had expectations of Gray, it would have been that he did the voice when telling us his backstory.
That's hilarious.
So that, as long as that you have something that could just be a paragraph that has some sort of motivation for your character to do stuff in the world aside from just being the guy in the party whose name is Buck.
Yeah.
Right?
Instead of being a fighter named Buck, you have a couple of sentences that define your character.
Yeah. And he likes to party. And if he goes to taverns and you expect him to do party stuff and, he knows it, the DM knows it, the players know it, that's something that they could work off of too.
Yeah.
Ideally, I like at least like a page of something.
Written?
It doesn't necessarily need to be written. But like, if you were to spit your ideas onto a piece of paper and it fills a page, that's good enough.
How do you generally facilitate it? So you're starting a campaign, people are talking about their characters. How do you facilitate the backstory conversation based on your expectations?
It's kind of difficult with my party, to be completely honest. It's kind of difficult with my party, to be completely honest. I'm doing different things when I'm starting a game. So like usually I would say, okay guys, make characters, and then here in the 0 session we're going to talk about where you guys are starting off or how I'm starting you guys off, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, hook first.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I will tell them, hey, you guys all know each other. You're all together at the start of the game. work together to make your characters, give yourselves backstories. They don't have to be in tandem with each other as long as you have one. And then we're starting over here.
Yeah.
Or I would tell them, hey, we're starting over here. This is what this place is like. Figure something out. Stuff like that. So I'll try to facilitate it that way. And then oftentimes I'll have a player, like maybe, usually just one, who will really like try to bounce ideas off of me. Like, hey, what is this place like here? What does this do here? Is there anything special about this like race of people? Like, can these people be humans? I'm like, yeah, you can do all that stuff. And so they'll make themselves a pretty decent, maybe not too fleshed out, but there is like a solid background to like, I'm a noble person from this area. My father was killed one night, and then my brother was horrendously crippled, and then I ended up being cursed by some creature, and now once every other moon phase, I switch places with that creature, and now I'm more aggressive on the new moon, or I'm myself on the full moon, stuff like that. So I'm like, that's great, that's fantastic, that's a lot of stuff to work with. Most of the time, as a DM, I want players to have a background that motivates them, and it doesn't matter if I get to work with them at all.
Yeah.
I just want them to have some sort of motivation for their character.
Based on the hook.
Based on the hook. Or lack of hook.
Or yeah, even if it's a soft hook. Why are you in the city?
Yeah. Ideally, it's not only something that motivates them, but it's also something that I can just play with if I think is interesting.
Yeah.
So
if you feel like you see the backstory, it fits in some part, or even if you make it fit into some part of your story you're telling, it's like, oh, this is cool. Let me play with this. Let me play with this idea.
Yeah, so there's that player's character, the noble who has a wuxia revenge quest, I'll call it, because it was like a very Chinese themed area. And then you have the character who he picked a race that's really bad at magic and became a magic class.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to learn magic like a wizard, but ended up being a warlock.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun stuff to work with. And then you got the other character whose entire motivation was to go and imbibe strange drinks. Didn't necessarily need to be a drink. Sometimes it was poison that would have killed anybody but him because of his specific character race. And then there's another character who's I don't think had a motivation. Mm-hmm. So they're difficult to work with.
Mm-hmm.
That's a character that I would say, flesh something out a little bit more. Like you're more than just a person in this area who has fancy armor that nobody knows about, or that only I know about, or a fancy weapon, stuff like that.
Oh, that's something that like I feel like I've gotten two versions of that, and both of them I think are equally difficult to work with. I don't think there's an opinion out there, and it's relatively common, that you're playing against the DM. And that creates one of them, which is like someone that has a background, but for whatever, like in the same way that you would like, oh, I want everything to be a surprise at the table, they want it to be a surprise for the DM as well. And it's like, yeah, but I'm the one writing the story. I'm putting every tile in front of you. It's harder for me to facilitate a story or cultivate a story if I don't know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's the part of the point of you as the GM is like you're essentially the god of the world.
Yeah.
So like, I get maybe your motivation as a player to be like, I kind of want to hold my cards close to my chest, and I don't want to look, but also like, I don't know. I feel like that should be for your other players, not for your.
That's kind of what I'm
GM.
saying. I could see hiding some things from your GM, but like the problem that I have with that is because I've had players do that, and it's like they don't want to share everything with me because of that perspective, but then also put it onto me to keep things interesting. Like, cause like I could see wanting to hide things from your DM. Like there's a lot of behaviors from players that I dislike that I think I could nail.
Yeah.
I would trust you two with it. And that'd be one of them. Like I could see either of you DMing and building a world, giving me a hook and blah, 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 blah. And then me building a character and be like, hey, I don't want to expose everything about my character. I rather just come to the table, but also like I'm very aware of what player responsibility is. So like I wouldn't just sit there and like I wouldn't put it so on you to make sure that everything is interesting to me. I would make sure my character's malleable enough to latch onto your hook, to latch onto your storylines or your NPCs that you put in front of me, because I know that I'm doing a thing that makes it harder to run for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm making it harder for you to run the game for me. So I need to be very malleable because of that. But I've had it where players do kind of write something, don't share it with me, and then are like kind of continuously disappointed because their expectation is that I make things interesting for their character. And it's like, well, you know, my character wouldn't care about that. My character wouldn't do this thing. And it's like, okay, but how would I know that? You haven't shared your character with me. It's hard for me to write hooks for you. So
yeah, I mean, I also just don't like if let's say the next closest potential, like it's not a long form campaign, but it's like a little mini campaign that I am probably going to run is the buddy cop thing.
Yeah.
If you were to approach me as I'm writing this, as I get closer to like the finish line of starting it, and you were like, hey, my guy, I have like a big chunk of his backstory that like I kind of really want to hold close to the chest, and I really don't like, if you don't mind, I just don't bring that up, and like maybe as a polite person and as your friend, I would be like, sure, that's fine. But also as your friend and also as like one of your closest friends, I'd be like, why? I don't understand. I don't why
can't I know? Like it's fine that Gray doesn't know as my air quotes buddy cop partner.
Yeah.
But the DM should know.
Yeah, but I'm like, I would be like, I'm trying to build the game for you to have fun.
Yeah.
Why are you keeping secrets from me?
Yeah.
Like, it's my job to keep secrets from you because that's what gives you the surprise as a player.
Yeah.
My surprise and my joy as the GM is like how you interact with the things and the decisions you make, and then how I have to stay on my toes to be like, all right, how do I react to what you guys are doing in this space?
Yeah.
It's not like, because it's not going to be like, it would blow me away as a GM to be like, let's say you're keeping something close to the chest. I don't know. You have a half brother that's in the city, just as a stupid example.
Sure.
I can't imagine there's ever going to be a point in the game where I would be comfortable as a GM where like we're doing something and all of a sudden you as a player are like, oh, I think I see my half brother over there. And I go, no, you don't. You don't see him over there at all.
Well, I could give you even a better example though would be like if I'm hiding, especially like personality traits as part of my background, like a big thing that players don't realize is like understanding a character and where they come from and whatnot changes how a DM might play an NPC. And I know a lot of people think it shouldn't, but it kind of needs to, because if you're writing a character, an NPC, that's supposed to be an ally, supposed to be trusted, supposed to be a good quest giver or whatever, any of those things, and your player gives you a backstory and you're like, okay, cool. So like kind of anything goes or whatever. Like your character is like, you like a no bullshit person, blah, 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 whatever. Cool. Then yeah, I'll have this really hardened police chief that, you know, kind of gets to the point, blah, 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 blah. But if you come to me with a character, it's like, oh, I have like, I had this thing that happened in my backstory and it's sown a deep distrust that I have for everybody, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, I'm going to play this police chief a lot softer.
Sure.
Because I need you to trust, for the story to work, I need you to trust a police chief. And based on your character's backstory, if I played him this other way, you might immediately think that there's an enemy in scene one or someone trying to deceive you or whatever. And it's like, knowing that about your player or your player character helps you know how to act in a situation and how to react in a situation.
I agree with you. The thought I had as you were talking about the like building up like a potential scenario and how that affects is, I thought of, I think I understand a reason why somebody might be not fully disclose the motivations of their characters or the history of their character to their DM. If they are intentionally playing the character as like a traitor or like a double agent, and they are, for some reason, they have a history of working with another DM where they like tell the DM that this is what I'm doing, and the DM for some reason kind of like calls them out, exposes them during play. So it's like, I can see that being a reason why you wouldn't necessarily want to say that, but also like me as a GM, God, I'm probably even Gray too, and you, Sov too. If my player came up to me as like, hey, I kind of want to be a double agent in this campaign, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. How do we make this work?
Yeah, in those situations, that's like that's an even more important time.
I was just about to say that feels more important for your DM to know, because like
then they can help facilitate that moving along in a organic way.
I'm just trying to think of a reason why you wouldn't want to share, and that would be it, is if a DM has burned you before. Yeah,
well, if not, you run the risk of like, if your DM's not on board with it too, because you're also talking about doing something that has the potential for being very disruptive at the table.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Again, as I said to you guys, if one of you two came to me and was like, I want to be a double agent, I'd be like, okay, I got to think on that.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool, but I really, really got to think on that to facilitate it not being disruptive at the table. So if you come to me and are secretly a double agent, there's almost no way for it not to be disruptive, because you're going to decide when you're going to betray the entirety of the party.
Yeah.
That makes it harder. There's also just a degree that I think, even as a DM, I've realized this in my games, and I'm sure you guys have realized this as well, both as a player and as a DM, that players, whether it was yourself or someone else at the table, I think Ace was a great example of this. Literally the character Ace, not the player, where like, it was important for me to always remember as a DM that Ace is a badass.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not how I saw him.
Yeah.
The character.
Yeah.
But it's how the player saw his character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to be able to attempt to facilitate that. I realize that I think hiding things in general is bad. I think you should be able to accept or trust your fellow players that meta's not going to happen, because I've found that I've had problems at my tables, and the way I solved it was to just facilitate meta tabletop or like above table conversations, so that people understood what other people at the table were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Because like you doing the psychopath thing as Clinton, right? If nobody knew what you were trying to do and you just started doing that, I could see it bothering other players, and they're like, oh, this guy's fucking doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Oh, this guy's doing, oh, there he goes being a psycho. He's going to ruin the campaign. He's going to blah, blah, blah. But we did have above table conversations, and our player characters didn't know that, but our players knew that. And so we were able to facilitate that narrative.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm way for like being as communicative as possible to your table and to your players.
Honestly, the more communicative a table is, the better. I understand these grand scheme ideas of like wanting to play a double agent, and they're really, really, really awesome ideas when you can facilitate it. But for the most part, tables run better when people talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
And their perspective of their character and whatnot. Because like, if the more, not only the more that the DM understands a character, but the more the other players understand a character, the better the interactions get, and the more facilitating certain types of narratives or arcs get.
The only thing is, in the specific context of talking about like a double agent story, that's one of those ones where like, if it gets out, then have the conversation with the table.
Yeah.
But that is one that, depending on the people on my table, because let's say we were running a game.
Yeah.
I was running a game with Sav and Gray as my players. And Sov was a double agent, and Gray didn't know for 3 sessions, 4 sessions, and then it comes out, but it didn't come out in game. It came out above table.
Or in front of Gray's character or whatever. But something had to happen where it does make it obvious.
Yeah, and so like Gray's character still doesn't know, but Gray does.
Yeah.
I would trust Gray to play his character correctly.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to shit on Ace, like the player, but like I would have way more hesitation with Ace. If Ace knew that like one of the players at the table was a double agent, I think it would bleed into his decisions that he would make. And just because
I could see it.
Like we already had issues where he was looking up Wikipedia pages for like his character
Or for poisons.
Yeah. And again, talking about backstory, he rolled it into, my character grew up on a farm. So you would know what kind of vegetables and plants like would poison animals. And it's like, yes, you can kind of stretch that to be that thing, but also like you're kind of just like using knowledge you have and you're trying to bring it into the game as if, like you're not taking the context of what your player would know or what the character would know. You're really
I mean, I've seen that at tables too, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm not acting because I know he's a double agent. I'm acting because I just naturally don't trust this person.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you argue with that?
That's the thing too, is that all of a sudden I can see that happening where players all of a sudden don't trust this character.
I mean, my biggest push though is at a table where that distrust exists at all. That's not the right table for a double agent story.
Sure. Yeah.
Like this table, the 3 of us, 100%. I've been like, if I was writing the buddy cop thing and I was still early on, and one of you approached me and was like, "I want to do a double agent thing," I would be like, "Oh, I'll just make that the story."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that'll be a huge story beat that I am aiming to hit. I am going to write that narrative. Whereas like, if I was almost done with the buddy cop thing and one of you guys approached me, I'd be like, I don't think it fits.
Yeah,
sure. I trust you guys, but I'm like, for the story I've written, that's really only going to be disruptive.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, big things with your backstory, and a lot of that stuff should happen pre-game.
That also, like, that happens almost every single table, and I'm sure this happens with you too, Gray, where, like, people have very theatrical ideas for their backstories to try to be, like, outside of the box. And there's almost always someone in the character creation process that wants to create an outside of the box character that is like secretly not into the hook. And it's like, why are you intentionally writing a character that's not into what's going on in this story? It's a weird thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, and the double agent I would put into that category, like, occasionally having a double agent thing, sure. But like having it's kind of like when we talk about alignments and when we talk about like, or characters that like, cause this is such a classic backstory flaw or character flaw of being like, I'm a lone wolf. And it's like, rarely.
Yeah.
That coming up rarely would be really cool. Having a lone wolf that's played well in a party setting is really cool. But there's a lone wolf character in every campaign. It's not really outside of the box. And all it is one character that, as a written rule, doesn't get along with the party and acts against the party's wishes and tries to split away from the party and have their own campaign within your campaign. And it's like, it's not a great trait. I feel like any of these ideas of like double agents or not being into the hook, which I do run across pretty frequently. Yeah. Somebody wants to be more outside of the box. They want to be theatrical. They want it to be like, oh, I want my character to be the interesting character at the table. And it's like, yeah, but also, why would you write a character that's not into what's going on? That's a weird move, in my opinion.
It's a party of lone wolves, Just have 3 lone wolves going through.
But then just run 3 different campaigns,
It's also like, I don't personally, I think if I was to have a strategy or if I was to play any game, I'd much prefer playing a character that got along with everybody in the party. That was like probably even deep friends.
It makes the story. I don't know about deep friends, but getting along as a character attribute rather than not getting along as a character flaw is so much better. And I get that it's vanilla. I get it. But also, the reason why it's vanilla is because it is the most like copacetic trait that you could have. It's what makes a whole campaign work, is that like, we're friends. When you're almost dead, I don't like it. When I'm almost dead, you don't like it. When something about your backstory is happening, it's important to me too. Like it just makes the party run well.
Yeah.
When you have that attribute.
No. Everyone needs to be a lone wolf who's an alcoholic, who's an orphan.
Orphan, yes. You need the orphan backstory.
Oh my God. Every campaign, orphan. Every campaign, lone wolf. Every backstory, tragedy.
Yeah, there's ungodly levels of tragedy.
Yeah. My whole village was swallowed into the abyss, blah, 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 while I was on a walk in the woods. And everybody I ever loved died, and I'm seeking out the reason why that happened. And it's like, bro, like, didn't anybody have a dad? Nobody's got a mom out here? What's going on? This whole world's just orphans?
I mean, like, I was just trying to, like, Clinton was the most lone wolfy character that I've played, but like,
no. Yes and no.
No, yes, in that, like, he would go off and do his own thing and rob and kill people behind everyone's back and just kind of like in secret do that. But also when he was at camp, he was like a father figure. He was one of the like underlings to the main crew
Well, I was going to
heads.
say you had such a nice complimentary thing. Like, one, psychopath, which means you go out and do horrible things. But two, as per the party, you were a yes man.
Yeah.
You were very much a yes man. And that's such a complimentary trait. It's kind of what made Clinton work.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're a psychopath. You go out and you do things and you're heartless and you're horrible. Very, very much in line with the lone wolf. But what was more important as an attribute was that you were also very much a yes man.
Yeah. Bot needed to get done. Whatever he said, Clinton was right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It worked very well in that sense. This was a very long tangent because this was one of two of my responses to Gray's thing like 30 minutes ago.
I don't even remember.
The other character that I get from that is, yes, people that write nothing at all, which is like generally a little bit more malleable of a character because they're figuring it out as they go, which is great. And their interest in the story is they are intrigued by the things that they put in front of you because they have no reason not to be. So in that sense, it works, but they have no rules for their characters. There's nothing that grounds them, and that makes it a little bit hard to write for them. It's okay because you could just write whatever you want, and they just kind of go along with it in the way that they can. But there's so little there that you don't really know if it'll fit right. You just hope they have a good time at the table, and you don't know. You don't know if it'll fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other one that I get from the not telling me anything. The reason why I asked you how you facilitate it is that's probably the part that I'm most interested in, because what I've come to do is just without asking anybody, I literally just start the conversation by asking a bunch of questions of like, think about who your character is, how they got here, why they would be interested in this hook. Because even when I get characters that like write their own backstory or do solo shit or whatever, generally, even if they don't necessarily immediately start within the hook, they've now written a character that otherwise would be interested in that kind of hook. So I just start slamming my players with questions before they start building a character that kind of mold them into a character that would fit. That's kind of how I facilitate it. And it also just is immediately like a call to action, because I'm like, hey, think about these things. Who are you? How did you get here? How did you come upon your skills? Why would these skills be applicable? Blah, blah, blah. Which is also just a call to action to write something down. I don't require my players to write anything down. I do request at least a couple of sentences. But what I find is by hammering them with all of those questions, I don't need to request anything. I usually get about a page back, which is nice.
I think I'm a little more lackadaisical when it comes to that. Like, I'll just let them not do it right. And then we'll, cross that bridge when we get there. So, I
try to do everything I can to get them to write it because I just hate chaos so much that I try my hardest
I
to
don't
facilitate.
hate chaos.
Yeah, I know. I just try my hardest to facilitate people thinking about their character in a grounded way, even if they don't write anything for me, because it ends up making them a better player character in the campaign for my DM style.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do with my next game. Although I feel like 3 of my players already have characters thought out and written, which I don't know why they do this to me.
That is everyone on StartPlaying.games.
Yeah.
The way StartPlaying.games works, just so all
everybody
DMs
has a
out there,
character and they want to go into a game with
the
it.
reason why they want to play a game is because they have a character in mind that they want to play. And that's like the majority of players that I've gotten the entire time I've been there is people wanting to bring a character into or otherwise a character build to the degree of personality and backstory, not necessarily unwilling to adapt it to make sense in the story, but like, yeah, people want to bring their character into a story.
Yeah, it makes it a little difficult because I think this time for my next freeform, I want to actually just make them start in a place and tell them this is what this place is like. You guys are people from this place. This is an event that's happened recently and is affecting you today. Make characters based around this stuff and see how that goes.
Yeah. I think ultimately me and you are similar. I think me and you, if we could do this, we would do this, which would be to just build pre-builds and go to players and be like, pick one, that's you. To a small degree. Like, I would say...
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, I would almost say like very, very, very generic characters. Like, hey, you're going to be level 6, but like, I want a fighter, I want a mage of some kind, a warrior of some kind, a healer of some kind.
I would do that in like a more directed campaign, but I wouldn't do it for a freeform.
Yeah. No, not for a freeform. But...
technically, I have done it for directed campaigns anyway.
Yeah.
Giving characters like, hey, this is your list of classes and subclasses to choose from.
Yeah. Well, for the other side of things, though, would be like if it's just a starting point that you want them there for, I could see you being like, hey, I have these very generic personalities that I'd like you guys to pick from, of like an orphan whose village got swallowed by the abyss. Someone be that. You can have whatever personality traits you want and whatnot, but like basically when I'm talking about like a generic thing to pick from, and be like more in line with like, hey, here's a reason to be here. Pick one of these reasons off this list to be here. And then write your whole character, whatever class you want, whatever race you want, whatever personality and background you want that explains that reason. But that is your reason for being here. I could see that.
One of my favorite, like, very little, like, very nothing fucking backstory. It was just fun. Was Glassblower, where it was all random. It was just you just got like a random rolled character, and his backstory, like the given whatever background or whatever, was noble. So he just like Yeah, he was just a rich kid who decided to go have fun. Like he just wanted to go on adventures. Great life. He had a big family, good supportive dad, supportive mom.
Oh, I have a player that often writes me those characters where they're like, "Oh, actually, I grew up really well.
Yeah,
I grew up really well, and I signed up for this guild, and I learned a bunch of stuff, and then they asked me if I wanted to go on an adventure, and here we are.
Yeah.
My parents loved me. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, it's granted. Adventuring seems like one of the most dangerous occupations that anybody could ever try to endeavor in. So like you have to have some level of something has to motivate you.
Something has to motivate you, but that doesn't necessarily need to be tragedy.
It doesn't need to be tragic.
It could be like I'll just write you a character right now.
No, don't please.
You grew up with a noble name. You became a knight in the Queen's Guard, and you saw the tragedies set upon the world when your tour of duty, so to speak, as a guard of the Queen's Watch or whatever, ended, and you gained, the house and the title and the name and everything that you would traditionally get. You decided you wanted to go out into the world and help the people as those further away from the crown, so to speak, on the peripheries of the kingdom, have a much harder time and have tragedies put onto them. And so you want to spend the rest of your life trying to go out into the world and better things in that way. You did your political bettering. Now you want to do that type of bettering. So you sold the house that was bestowed upon you, and you kept the sword by your side that you used to guard the queen for all of those years, and set out into the world as a brand new adventurer who's not necessarily worldly, but a well-trained fighter in some of the best, with some of the best trainers that the Queen's Guard had to offer. There's nothing tragic about that fucking story, but it's a cool character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't, like...
I mean,
you don't have to be an orphan. That's all I'm saying.
My favorite bastard is, or the story that I would bastardize the most out of, like, getting an adventurer would be Don Quixote. I think I would love to do a version of that, which is just some rich guy who liked reading adventure books and then just got up on his ass one day and said, I am a noble knight.
Yep.
I bought a suit of armor. I'm going.
One of my friends was gonna do a Don Quixote character.
Yep. Like I'm just gonna ride into the country. I have a horse. I bought armor. I have my sword, and I'm a knight now. And it was just his whole motivation. Well, granted, he was crazy, but it was also like his motivation was reading stories. Just having the motivation from reading stories in his library and wanting to be an adventurer.
This is such a nothing of a character, but I would love to play a character with approval of a DM where it's like, hey, I am lowborn, but my character has aspirations of being a knight. So training with sticks and then taking, low-grade iron and putting that onto bandits on the road and whatnot. I have full metal armor, but it's the stats, if you'll allow as a DM, of leather, because I made this myself out of cheap metal, and I present as a knight, and there's a lot of love and care that went into my armor, but it's not high grade, it's not well built, so it looks good, but it's not that good. I present as a knight, but I'm not. I am lowborn. And I don't know what I'm doing out here, but I'm trying. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to, what do they call that when people like put good vibes out into the world?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make that reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're I forgot what it's called too, but yeah. You're like just putting out positive vibes.
I'm just putting out positive vibes of being a knight in defense of the people. But realistically, I'm just some poor kid from the streets that
walking
got
around
cheap ass metal
in tin armor.
Yeah.
And it's just like, at a distance, whatever. But like if somebody was to look closely at your armor, it's like, oh wait, what?
Well, like commoners would probably look at me with reverence and think that I am that, and I do hold myself as that, and I do appear to be that. But anybody with any know-how would be like, "Who made your armor?
Yeah.
That's not a knight's armor.
What metal?
You're
is
an
this?
imposter." Yeah, it would be visibly obvious that I am an
Yeah.
imposter to another knight or a nobleman
Or like a good blacksmith or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's certain occupations and certain people that would be like that would suss you out really quickly.
yeah.
I mean, that sounds fun, but it
a
sounds
cool
like such a
character.
fun, like kind of like what you said, which is if one of us approached you as to be a double agent, we're like, oh, my whole story is this now.
Yeah.
I think if somebody was to approach me, a player was to approach me with that idea, I go, this is the whole campaign. Like, this is.
I want this to be everything. Everybody else is a support character.
Yeah, everyone else is here for you to do this thing. Also, it is. I love Don Quixote. I love that story. Like, it's one of my favorite books. So it's like, yeah.
Manifestation.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. I'm trying to manifest this like noble, honorable life.
Yeah.
Where I otherwise was born so low that I would never be able to achieve honor and
God, I could just
renown.
also picture the end of that campaign is the party as they're looking on in the king's court as you were getting knighted.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, dude, that sounds cool. That sounds like a cool, like,
sick, yeah.
how to get there. Like
Yeah.
however long it takes the character. And the
Well,
party.
and like it being established in the world that it's like, no, lowborn is lowborn. You have to be born to a name to be able to be a knight, blah, blah, blah.
You to do enough things
Yeah.
to gain a name.
That'd be fucking sick. And I want to play it in a sword and shield system.
No magic?
No magic. I think. Oh no! Before we go to the sponsor,
Oh,
I wanted to ask you, Nick.
you being, oh, okay.
So we've played in Lord's Fall, which you just made a bunch of pre-built character sheets. We had a birthday party, and no one wrote anything at all, not
No.
even a word for their characters. And we probably played about 5 or 6 sessions before we even thought about anything about our characters.
Yeah. It was also pre-builds for a party of like 8 to 12 people.
Yeah.
For those first like 3 games.
Yeah. And then we went into Realm Watchers, which, to be fair, had a lot more to it, right?
Yeah.
So Realm Watchers, as part of the backstory, we all had an oath that we all literally said out loud as the table. Every single character within that campaign had that. So obviously a lot more went into that, and there is kind of a level of writing to a degree, pre-built. And then we all had ideas that we would come to the table of who we were and where we came from, blah, 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 blah. But you weren't the DM. You were one of 3 DMs in that situation.
Yeah.
Now, not the buddy cop one, but if you were to run a campaign for us and our extended home table, what do you think your expectations would be now? Would you want the backstories written?
I think currently, if I was to run like some other high fantasy game
Mm-hmm.
or some other variation of D&D, I think I would open the floor to it. So like, I would let my players know if they want to create a backstory for your characters, depending on like what my hook is,
Yeah.
like what the hook is for the story. Like, hey, you guys can come up with a backstory, get that to me as soon as you guys can, so I can look it over and just see if I could do anything with it. And then I think a little bit like Gray said, which is like, if something in somebody's backstory kind of like, ooh, that's interesting, I could try to maybe find ways to play with it into the story, into what's going on. But I definitely I would not force it, and I would not be like, oh, you guys have to have a backstory. I definitely encourage people to think about it, because I do agree with you guys, which is like, I think it helps players establish more motivations for their characters.
Yeah.
So you're not just like God, like I think I've said it before in a really much older episode. I have laundry list of characters in my D&D Beyond account, and one of them is called fucking Sir Buggery Bear, and it's just because it's a bugbear who's a swashbuckling rogue. That's the extent of that character.
Yeah.
Is just that, and it's like, that would be the thing that I would probably want to motivate away from.
Yeah.
Or if you are going to do it, think about it. Like if I was to make Sir Buggery Bear and I was going to put him into an actual campaign that my DM could make work in terms of like a bugbear who's interacting with the party in the city, and I don't have to fucking hide my character every single time I run through the city without people yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
Like, because that becomes its own thing. That's like running a Dugar in a fucking in an above ground campaign, which is like, oh, you have light sensitivity. Well, there's a whole mess of things you have to do now.
Oh, that's my own homebrew. I just nope light sensitivity.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it, and there's ways to do it, and you can play with it. It's just like it becomes a whole nother layer of stuff that you have to deal with.
It becomes a whole nother layer that this is what I don't like about it, that the DM has to deal with.
To an extent, I mean, you could force it that the player has to deal with it.
No, you can't. Well, you can, but here's the thing. It's almost always disruptive. That's why I don't like that feature, because if you have light sensitivity, that player is always suffering a disadvantage, or they are clothing themselves in a way that would be abrasive to anybody in the world, so they get into a situation, they don't have disadvantage, they could roll normally, but they're immediately off-putting everybody. Or they are trying to force the party to exclusively operate at night, which is just changing everything about the party. And everybody else would be like, why would we want to do that? Like, the library's open during the day. We're not going to not go to the library.
The thing I would say as the, like, in terms of like the, like, I think it's possible. It just adds layers to it, just because the worlds are complex and worlds are big, usually.
Yes.
And most fantasy worlds are usually connected, as in this isn't 1400s. The Celts had no idea who the Persians were.
Right.
Like, so like there is no connection, no bridge. This is way more like Chinese Silk Road. Like there is a huge level of trade that's happening, so people are aware of other people's existence.
All of the races generally know what the other races are.
Yeah. So like there is generally a lot of connection throughout the world.
Well,
so you can have it so somebody who is light sensitive there's potentially some level of people in the world who dress in a particular fashion.
Sure.
That could potentially help deal with it. But it is just
But
like,
is that the only solution to it? And if they're always dressed up, aren't you just getting rid of light sensitivity anyways?
to an extent, yes. You're like creating a thing.
If that's the only answer?
Yes. You're creating a thing that's like, you have to now have this layer on your character that this is a thing that they do. And the only times it will come up as a thing is if you as the DM do something to change it. So light sensitivity, your character has this big hat on or something. Let's say there's an ornamental giant hat that this particular country wears. And so this guy wears it, so people just think he's from that country. In a fight, you destroy the hat. And then all of a sudden the character has all these flaws exposed. And it's like,
Yeah, now they're not an efficient character.
I had a character like that.
Yeah.
They were a mutant. They're like part gorilla, part dragon. And he dressed himself as a Konmusa monk.
Yeah.
They're the ones that wear the baskets over their head.
Sure.
With
Yeah.
the heavy robes.
Yeah.
So he had to go to town like that all the time, or else
Yeah.
people would see him and be a mutant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing if I had like Sir Buggery Bear.
So
If bugbears weren't accepted, I would do something like that too, where there's like a full dress garment that the character has to wear.
in almost all cases of anything I ever talk about being disruptive, I 100% believe that there is a way to do it.
Sure.
The reason why I blanket ban things is because I don't want anybody to think there's favoritism. And then, like, the reality is I don't trust all of my players to that degree that they're going to nail. I mean, I have players that I like but are disruptive, right? So, like, I would almost everything I talk about being disruptive, if you two came to me, I'd be like, yeah, think about these things. Think about the world. Think about blah, blah, blah. But if you're willing to think about those things constantly, sure. I could see you guys running that in a way that I would find extremely interesting and in a way that wouldn't ruin the table. But I absolutely have players that, like, I could see, and have had players in the past in even worse scenarios that I could see playing a character with light sensitivity, right? And then always being like, oh, well, I'm going to sleep during the day because I can only operate at night. And it's like, oh, so we're just going to be split party the whole campaign?
Yeah.
That's a terrible solution to the problem. I'd rather you just not have light sensitivity.
That's the thing about like Gray's character wearing that outfit, or like if I was to do a similar thing with my character, or if I was to handle a light sensitive character, is if you're going to do that, I think you as a player have to understand, and part of like your backstory would be, hey, you grew up in this area and you are probably relatively from this region.
Yeah.
You have adapted your whole life to be able to operate in this region. So why would you sleep at night? Who else, or during the day? Like, this city doesn't operate between the hours of 2 and 8 a.m. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What have you done for 20 years of your life to get to this point? Like, no.
Yeah, but if you're constantly having to talk to players about shit like that, it gets tedious.
I do get it. I do get it if you're working with like.
I would have no problem with either of you doing it because I trust you enough.
No, I understand.
For all of these things. Be a double agent.
Put me in, coach. I'll be a double agent with sunlight sensitivity.
Like, and don't get me wrong, how I opened it was I wouldn't want to bring a bugbear character into a campaign because of the layers.
If the campaign is like bugbears are unknown or otherwise scary. Or,
exactly. It's because me as a player, part of like, I think it's a different topic of player responsibility. I understand that that's on me.
Yeah.
I'm bringing something to the table that if I've communicated with my DM is a little disruptive, and it means I have to kind of adjust my character to the world. I'm not going to force the world to adjust to the weird things I'm bringing to it.
Of course.
So it's like, hey man, like, like there is a little bit of like, okay, like you can do it. And there's always ways to do it. And there's always ways to make things work.
Of course.
But it's just
there's always ways to make things work.
It just adds layers to the thing that like what game are we playing? Are we going to have like, how much trust do I have as a player with my DM? How much does my DM have trust in me as a player?
Yeah.
To make the things work and to make the things work at the table. So like, I get it. If you're working with a lot of strangers and it just makes, I could see just like, I could easily also see where like you being so open in your first month as DM, your first like few sessions running, and then just things pop up and you're like, well, not letting that happen again.
Not doing that anymore.
Yep, not letting that go. It's like, sorry guys, like, hey, here's a list of things I don't allow. And then players who are like, hey, how come? It's like, I don't know. I have a history of this thing happening, so just kind of like, I don't allow this at my tables. And some players being bummed out about it. It's like, hey, but man, it's probably a reason. Somebody probably abused it. Somebody probably took this thing and you're just like,
Well, I mean, usually my answer too about light sensitivity is like, hey, I'm cool with you playing this character, and I'm cool with, from a role play standpoint, you leaning into light sensitivity in my games. Light sensitivity means light sensitivity. It does not mean, the light is going to burst you into flames.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is there's no mechanical punishment to light sensitivity. You just don't like it.
Yeah.
But you can still play that race. I do not mind. And like, yes, you are traditionally an underground race. Yes, you might wear, a hood more often when you're walking around during the day. And yes, you need to understand that does make you look suspicious or shady. And yes, if you decide that you want to go that route and play into the light sensitivity to that degree in the beginning, I'm going to hold you to it throughout the rest of the campaign. But no, you're not going to burst into flames, because I don't want to facilitate a place where the majority of answers on how to solve a problem is to be disruptive.
Or your character is always just like greasy and slick with like sunblock. The character is just constantly putting sunblock on, and he's just this layer of fucking
running around SPF 100.
There's always an answer. I absolutely agree with you that there's always an answer. I just think that there's not always a sense of responsibility for people to adhere to those answers.
Yeah.
And that goes with backgrounds as well, like the backgrounds that work against what the campaign is.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got on this. The original question, I was asking you what you would want to do.
I talked a little bit about
a decent amount about it.
But also, the other thing we could talk about real quick is the loot table.
That's good, because I got to pee so bad. Immediately after I roll, I'm dipping.
Come on, everybody. Let's get hyped.
World's tiniest bladder.
Yeah.
It really is. Almost concerned.
It happened a lot during G&G as well.
Oh, yeah.
Our sponsors will be.
You also stroked down like fucking 2 cigarettes before we.
Always. All right. Today's sponsor is. I'm gonna die this time. Restful Reverie.
Listen here. You're traveling on horseback to your next destination, and the sun begins to sink to the horizon. You and your traveling companions start looking for a place to bed down for the night. You set up camp, erect your tents, start a fire, and get your nighttime meal ready, all for you to lay down on the bumpy dirt ground. Sure, you have a bedroll to separate you from the gruff forest floor, but that's not going to help you get a good night's sleep. You wake up, you feel like you need 2 hours more, but you're on a schedule. You have to ride on through to the day just to do it all over again. And heavens forbid you find yourself in a less than adequate inn on the roguish side of town, with bedding made of straw and covered in rough, starchy linens or worse, burlap. Ugh. Might as well just sleep on the floor. There is, however, a better option, a magical option. Restful Reverie is the enchanted bedtime solution for adventurers seeking the perfect night's sleep after a long, hard day of resting. Restful Reverie's handmade bedrolls are more than just sleeping bags or comforters. These portable mattresses make you feel like you're sleeping on a cloud. And that's because you pretty much are. Each Restful Reverie bedroll is filled with a combination of griffin down, Pegasus hair, and Pegasus hair bound together with the essence of an air method to provide you with the best night's sleep you'll ever have. Say goodbye to restless nights and wake up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Experience a true long rest with Restful Reverie today.
I wasn't sure what they were about to sell me. You know, I'm not saying anything bad about the ad and their ad read because God knows I love their product. I'm sitting on one right now. It's great. You can't beat Griffin Down and Hippogriff feathers, correct?
Pegasus
feathers.
Pegasus hairs.
Pegasus hairs.
Bound together by an air method's essence.
Yes. I mean, it's a high quality product. Great time. I've never been more comfortable. But also, at the beginning of that ad read, I was like, is this for an Airbnb? What is this ad for? And I was like, oh, it's what I'm sitting on. It's a comfortable mattress. It's a comfortable rolling bedroll. And it's good stuff.
How do you feel, Saul?
I wasn't here for it. I was outside with my bedroll. I was outside peeing on my bedroll.
I mean, you probably should.
Do they have very absorbent bedrolls?
I don't think so.
For the adventurers where nature calls at all times of the night. The new absorbent Restful Reverie Plus. You gotta have a plus or a max.
Mm-hmm.
Maxi with wings.
All right. Backgrounds. Player perspective. What do you like your DM to ask of you? How much do you like to give for a background? And big question, because I didn't talk about this from the DM perspective, but I could talk about it just as easily from the player perspective. Does it stop when the campaign starts, or do you continue writing your background?
Can't say I've done it much. I did it one time for a very short campaign that didn't last very long. I wrote like 2 or 3 pages because I needed my character's background, but another character needed a background for that character to exist. So I wrote a bunch of shit, trying to adapt it from my own stories, lore, and stuff. I don't really care if the DM wants anything out of me. I don't really care if they even make a story that has to do with my background. Personally, when I make a background for my character, it's just to create that groundwork for themselves and their motivations and how I'm going to play them.
Yeah, I would say the same. So, like, as a DM, I prefer to move forward with a character rather than have it like, you write an adventure hook, you write a story, there are story beats, and you are only adding auxiliary things by if they're like side quests to address someone's background. And I feel the same as a player. Where like, I don't need a DM to, and I say this to DMs when I play with people, where it's like, hey, I'm going to write a background. However much you want me to write is fine. I'm going to write at least a little bit myself. You don't have to address it at all. It's where I came from. It helps me understand my character to get something jotted down. It helps me, reference and address things, blah, blah, blah. I don't even care. Like, if you don't want it, I don't need to give it to you, but I'm going to do it for me to understand my character. But even if I give it to you, you don't need to parse through it to find adventure hooks within it. It's fine. It's just who I am and where I came from. I'm cool with doing your story.
Yeah, it's my background is there to help me guide how I'm going to interact with your hook or the story beats. It's like, we come across we're in this cult. Hey, they're using this kid to summon force a demon. It's like, guys, we gotta kill the kid. It's like, no, we will never kill the kid. I will kill all of you before we kill the kid. And somewhere down the line, it's like, guys, I think this puppy is gonna turn into a monster. It's like, oh, I'll scare the puppy. You want me to do it right now? I see you're crying, but I can just do it right now.
The thing is, I've already sent my spear. So
I mean, I could cook it afterwards, Might as well not let it go to waste.
It had some meaty thighs.
Yeah, it helps you establish how you need to operate as that character moving through the story. But yeah, I don't ever put onto a DM that like my shit needs to be addressed. It's cool when it happens.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's so cool when it happens, but like, it doesn't need to. Like, I have family members. I'll write their names down. If they come up in the story, cool. I don't expect it. They don't need to exist on this plane of existence anymore. It doesn't matter.
I write my character backstories for me. Like, if the DM wants it or needs it or uses it, oh, cool. Happy is,
or just
as
even,
it can be.
as we talked about, even they just want to understand my character.
Yeah, 100%.
Happy for it.
One of the stories that Gray was telling about his character, one of his players asking him for questions about his world and whatever.
Love it.
I did that when I was building the backstory for one of my characters for one of the campaigns I was in. And it was a fucking Westward March game.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter. Like, your character barely matters in that style of game. I wrote a whole backstory about how my character interacted with my DM story, where like my character was a part of a war that he had, and like he had a whole thing where he did this misadventure in his life. And the reason why I wrote it is it helped make me understand my character, what kind of decisions he would make, how old he was, the kind of life that he had led. Yeah. So given certain situations, where he would come from in those situations. Even like Clinton, who we've talked about a couple times, as far as the backstory that was necessary, which is the parts that we played, which was the little bit of like the pre-story or the
I gave you a 10-minute pre-written scenario that your character was in.
It was a little jump off point, a little session 0 story where it just so happened to be for Clinton. It was like 10 years prior or something like that to like the events of the game, 10 or 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So it already established that Clinton was known in the gang at a fairly young age. So I was like, okay, he was like 15 or something or 16 at the time of that story. And I was like, okay, so Clinton was pretty young.
Well, actually that was part. So it set your age as well. You allowed it to set your age, but the reason why it set your age is you wanted to play a young character. And we were like, well, based on the 10 minutes that we already played, because that actually happened later. You weren't a teenager when we played through that, but when we were trying to make your character after that, which is how we did it, right?
Yeah.
We did character creation after our 10-minute plays. you were like, well, I want my character to be as young as possible. And we were like, well, the as young as possible is probably 30 because I think based on how your 10-minute play went, which was
I think
15 years in the past, I think around 15 years old is the youngest age that would make sense for your 10 minutes of play.
I think
which
Clinton
would make
ended
you
up being,
30 now.
Yeah, I think Clinton ended up being like 34 or something like that.
Something like
at
that.
the time of play.
But the point is that like, yeah, it kind of set your
and
it set your age based on how you wanted to make the character
that was
young.
the thing. That was the thing I was going to go for, or was going to keep talking about, because you said like, oh, do you continue writing after?
Yeah,
Clinton has always been a bit of a back and forth for me, which is like that happened. I had nothing because that was the point. Is we built no character, we played the pre-story, and then we built the character from there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started kind of fleshing out aspects of the story, and then Clinton to me was slowly getting built as I played the character. So like as I played the character and as he made certain decisions, I was like, okay, let me start kind of integrating that backward into his story. So like, I don't know when, if ever, we're going to get back to G&G, at least that particular story of G&G.
Yeah.
So I can feel a little more comfortable, like, just like, you know, saying it all out of what Clinton was. Like Clinton was like, fatherless kid because his dad had died because his dad was a thief. His dad was an outlaw.
Yeah.
Got his mom pregnant. He was a rotten kid because he didn't have a dad. You know, he was just kind of, he lashed out. And so really young age.
You hear that? Everybody out there doesn't have a dad?
Yeah. You're going to lash out. Yep,
You're a rotten kid.
Yep. You're a rotten kid. Nobody loves you.
Nick said it.
Yep. This is all true feelings that Nick has about everybody.
Yeah.
But like he just didn't cope well. And then he became an outlaw, like a extraordinarily young age, like started robbing and thieving
young
at like 10,
sure,
like 10, 11, doing these like doing crazy shenanigans. And then around the age of like 13 and 14, like just kind of scattering, like just running away from his mom, going off and adventuring, and then coming across the gang around that time point, like 14, 15, and then having what had essentially stayed throughout the rest of the campaign, which is he found father figures. He found Bot and Bill. He found, what was the name of the Thomas Reed. What was the other guy? Big burly guy?
Reuben.
Was it Reuben?
No, Jules.
So Jules, Thomas Reed, and Bot and Bill, he found the connection to a father figure that he'd been, you know,
within the lifestyle that he was already kind of living. He found father figures within that, and then also kind of like in extreme times, like you kind of become a person.
Yeah.
So like you also found that during a really bloody gang feud.
Yeah.
So you just became integral.
That was
the gang.
This part of, again, his like the other motivation I had for him being like a secret psychopath is like he found these father figures in the middle of them being in a blood feud with this other gang. And so just having to resort to full violence, like full deadly violence so quickly.
And so young.
And it's just like, so like a lot of that had like naturally progressed out from like where Clinton had started. Yeah. And kind of just decisions made and the things where I was like, oh, okay, let me just kind of like clean up and, cheeky little changes here and there to Clinton's backstory. Because like Clinton, even as a character, had changed. Because there was a point in which we were, the game was being created and the rules for the game were being created and like character classes. And then there was a point where you allowed for a respec because a significant update had changed. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, so I'm going to respec Clinton because I've been playing Clinton in a certain way.
You might as well spec in that direction.
Might as well spec him in that direction. And it kind of, again, that bleed of the backward and forward of like, oh, this is how the character's playing forward. Also, it's going to bleed backward into some of the other aspects of his backstory. But like, I love backstory. I love world building. I love all that. Like,
I do kind of the same thing when I make a character, which is like I make general ideas of the personality. So I'll do like a little bit of the backstory, and then I make general ideas of the personality type. All of it meant to be a player that adheres to the hook. But overall, I kind of write it kind of like a DM, kind of generic, because I like solidifying my character through play.
Yeah.
I like finding out who they are through play. And like I had a character that I wrote for a kind of mini campaign that I had this idea of who they were and how they would act. And some of those ideas just never came up.
Yeah.
And because they never came up, they kind of got lost and forgotten. And I was like, I guess that was just never a part of who he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I had other ideas while playing where I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool based on these other traits that he has if he had this trait as well. If he was, you know, really lackadaisical about this thing, even though it meant danger, and just so willing to go on with a silly idea, which makes me more malleable to the party anyways.
Yeah.
Like, what if his life has been so dangerous thus far that danger has become kind of mundane, and he's willing to follow along with stupid plans because it doesn't matter one way or the other if it's going to be dangerous or not.
Yeah.
He's willing to see the stupid plan through just to see it through, like almost for fun.
Yeah.
For, you know, and that's like a later development of the character based on how I have been playing them so far. Of the pre-written traits, what has come into play so far? I have a player in one of my games that I allowed for a respec for that player only of one of his features, because we were like, I don't know, 5-6 months into the game. He had never used the feature that he had requested in the beginning. It was like alert or something. I don't know.
Sure.
And he had just never used it once. And he was like, hey, I've never used this feature, and I see that I've kind of accidentally fit into becoming a leadership role, which he absolutely had, kind of like Bot and Bill in our G&G campaign. He just kind of filled in that role on accident, and people just started looking to him. And he went to me and he was like, hey, can I respec this feature to get inspiring leader? And I was like, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not necessarily what you intended for the character when you set out to start the campaign, but you're right. It makes sense that he has this feature and has always had this feature. So yeah, I'm fine with retconning that feature into your thing, because that is how you've been playing him.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
I still remember one of your early exposures to like, it feels like D&D memes, like TTRPG memes, where my first major campaign, Lord's Fall, and then your first character was just a pre-build.
Yeah.
And then when you were kind of done with that character and you wanted to explore a new character, you came up with a new character, and you were like,
I was actually going to bring that up because me and you worked together,
we worked
back
on
and
the
forth
backstory.
with your world, where he came from, how
you
he got where he
integrated him
is.
into a character that was already interacting with the party.
Yeah.
This whole thing. And then you show up to the party and you're like, hey, I'm the new guy, potentially. Do you guys accept me? Maybe I got a bit of a backstory I could tell you to get you guys to like me more. I go,
nah, we don't care.
nah, we don't care.
Hop on the ship.
Yeah, let's go.
Shut
Let's
up, cat.
go. Yeah.
You're like, anybody? I got a backstory.
Anybody want to know
wants
about my
hear
3-page backstory?
Anybody?
Anybody?
Name? No, we didn't ask.
Nobody asked.
Love it. Well, it was also just like such a stark opposite from a different player at the table, Ace, whose character died, and he brought in a new character. Nobody liked him.
Yeah.
Nobody trusted him.
Yeah.
And there was a weird thing at the table where, like, I think above table, you kind of went to the group and you were like, hey, you guys can have all of these opinions about him, but you have to let him play.
Oh, yeah. I remember
because
that.
nobody liked him.
Because everyone came out the gate, like, distrusting this character. And it was like...
Well, no, because he came up in a very distrustful way.
Yes,
to be fair.
It was a very awkward introduction because, again, it's all new to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's... this campaign already jump started in this weird way because again, just because I used a funny voice, everybody distrusted the person that gave you the mission. So like everyone's already on this edge of like mistrust everything in your world. Like everything in this world, everything's trying to deceive you. And so like now here's this character who doesn't have the best introduction. I think he was very cocky.
I think it was that. Yeah, I think maybe it was cocky.
And so everyone was like, ugh, like just put off by him.
Yeah.
And then it was like this whole thing where, yes, it was above the table. It was like, hey, guys.
You can hate him. You got to let him in your party.
But like, this is our friend, Ace, and he's trying to play the game. So
and there was nothing wrong with this character. It was just, like you said, a bad introduction. Yeah. But so I remembered that, right?
Yeah.
Because again, this is my first introduction to D&D as well. And this is my first... I really wrote a character, and I'm trying to this is my first time bringing a character into a already running campaign.
Yeah.
And I know I've been at the table the entire time, but this character hasn't. So I was so cautious because of the way that character was brought in. And I think everybody else at the table was also, everybody at least that was new to D&D, was also under the same, like, well, we kind of fucked it the last time we brought someone in. But none of that was communicated. So I brought in my character, and I was really about this, like, okay, in a very calm manner, I'm going to be very open and honest. I'm going to explain exactly who I am. I'm going to explain exactly who I have connections to, and I'm going to tell them why I'm interested in joining the party. I'm going to be very honest about it. I'm not going to try and be sneaky or lie or anything like that. Meanwhile, the entire table... based on the last interaction, learned their lesson. And they're like, no matter who it is, we have to let them in anyways. So I walk up and I'm like, hi, my name is, and everybody's like, who cares? You're part of the party. Jump on in.
Shut
and
up.
I had written like
You're in.
3 pages of fucking backstory. No one cared.
You really tried.
No one cared.
We wrote something. We integrated a lot of good things, and it would have been fun to like have any of that be
matter at all. Yeah, literally none of it came up. No. I think the Beth thing came up once.
It sort of, because every interaction with Beth was also an interaction with somebody at the table who played very little.
Yeah.
Who had like a very new player.
That's why I said I came up once.
Yeah, where she, like, this was her thing.
Yeah.
This was her shining light at the table.
Yeah.
Was interacting with Beth. And it was like, I don't want to take this away from her. To
be fair, one, I was robbing everybody the whole time I was playing Milgaia.
Of course.
Because everybody just decided to give me all of the money, and so I just rounded up, or I rounded down. So I just got like 5 gold here, 3 gold there, the whole time I was playing Milgaia, and then at the end, I robbed the table, including myself, because I left the same way that I came in. No one gave a fuck when I came in. So when I decided that Milgaia is going to retire, because I wanted to go back to playing the Bard, literally everybody woke up and whatnot, and everybody was getting ready and shit. And then I think someone wanted to talk to my character, and I was like, he's gone. What? Yeah, he's not here.
Yeah.
Where is he? Oh, he left. What do you mean he left? Yeah, middle of the night. His bedroll's gone.
Yeah.
He left. He took all of his money with him, which was like 1/4 of the party's money. He's gone. He disappeared. He was here to get rich.
He got rich.
You guys are all a bunch of assholes, because we were all the villains in the story anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, you guys are all a bunch of assholes. You made him rich. He left.
That was fun. That was the closest to the a villain. What do you call it? A villain story?
Words?
Yes, words. I don't remember anymore.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. Did you talk about your player backstory?
We talked about it a little bit, yeah.
I did a bit.
Okay.
I had a question. Can piggyback it off like the Milgaia stuff and stuff. How do you guys feel about other players' backstories? Like, do you care to learn about them like outside a game, or is it something that you want to see done into the game? Does it interest you when it happens? Like,
I'd say both. Above table, I mostly want another personality.
Mm-hmm.
At table, Yeah, I love it. I love inner player RP so much. I love it to the degree in which Botan and NPCs had full-blown conversations that took up half of our game sessions, which is just me and you, Gray,
Yeah.
RPing at each other. Because I love character backstories. I love RP, and like real deep RP. Yeah, I love it. One of my favorite currently running campaigns. Like, yeah, it's like half the time it's them talking at each other, and I'm just sitting as a DM. I'm just sitting back with my legs crossed, just chilling. And I would like the same thing as a player. I would love the same thing as a player. I always said, when we were playing Realm Watchers, that like the biggest thing that I felt like was missing was like the campfire moments. I always said that. I love the campfire moments. I love hearing about backstory. I love hearing people interacting with each other. Not just backstory, but I love when backstory is part of it. Absolutely. So as a player, yeah, I deeply care about other people's backstories and hearing about them, especially because I feel like, and I don't know if this is everybody or just me, but I have a natural inclination to D&D is a problem that you're always trying to solve. And you can only, as a player, think about the problem from your own perspective. As a DM, I have no problem. It's my job to pay attention to each player and player character and really get invested in them. As a player, I find that a little bit harder to do. I don't know if it's just the way my brain works, where like D&D is a puzzle always, and you're always trying to solve it, and you can only solve it via your character. So it's really easy to get really isolated and look inwards. I really like, as a player, talking to other player characters. As a player character talking to other player characters and doing it in character and learning about them.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's the moment that helps me ground them. I have a really hard time listening to other players interact with the world and being invested in it if I haven't had or won't have or don't feel that I'm ever going to have a moment with that character and my character. So having those inner character moments and backstory is just the easiest way to do it. It's the easiest topic to talk about. Helps me ground other people's characters and make them a part of otherwise my story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yes, I do. It helps me care about other characters by hearing about their backstory in character.
Yeah. I mean, for me as a player, I don't think my motivation for playing or like I don't really have a strong motivation to hear other players' backstories. Not in that like I don't care. It's just like if it comes up, if it's part of a thing, sure. In the same vein that like you were talking about, like it's the easiest thing to talk about. My biggest thing as a player is what table am I at? Is the table newer are there newer players at the table? If there are, what gets that newer player playing?
Yeah.
Like actually playing, not just rolling at the table, not just hitting, but like playing the game, like role playing.
Yeah.
Like getting into the game. If what needs for that to happen is we're sitting at the campfire and I'm talking to the player and we're talking about their backstory, then that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I've seen both of us do that, by the way. I've not really seen you do that as much, Gray. Just because we've not had as many instances of like small party new player interactions like that in a campaign setting or a story setting. But I have, Nix, with you, seen that as both a player and a DM from both of us, where we're like both of us pretty committed to getting another player into the role playing, and the way to do that is almost in every case, whether you're a DM or player, is to just start RPing at them. Yeah. The moment you start RPing at someone, it brings them into the RP.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Well, yeah, you guys do that way. The way I did it was I would just put them in the spotlight and try to push them into a direction to do a thing. Which,
I've seen you do that. Yeah.
Did with Jimmy.
Yes.
A lot.
It's like, hey, there's this thing. You go do it.
Oh,
this is what you need to know. Go.
I remember us doing that, though I think it was Lucky that facilitated it. I remember us doing that in the worst of scenarios, where we had a new player, Glassblower, at the table, and we wanted him to get into the RP. And I believe it was Lucky that initiated it, but we were like, hey, we have this whole investigation that we need to do. Hey, Glassblower, you go do it. And he looked so put on the spot, and he was like, it was a big table break.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was like literally emotionally breaking down at the table, and we didn't understand why at first. He was just sitting there busting up laughing and like red faced and whatnot. And he was like, I'm so high right now. I've never done this before. I don't think I could do it. I'm so
Oh,
baked.
yeah, I remember that.
None of us knew that he was ripped out of his mind coming to the session. Oh my God, that was so funny. But yes, it is a good way to do it. But see, what you're relying on there, though, is not unlike what we're talking about. Because as a player doing that, as a player turning to another player like Jimmy and sending them out to go and do something important, while you're not the one that's going to be physically doing it, what you're doing is setting them up to be role played at by the DM.
Yeah.
And what I never got to do was eventually I kind of wanted to take Botan and like I wanted Botan to kind of take Jimmy under his wing after, you know, the brutal beatdown in the woods.
Yeah.
And kind of give him like the Colton upbringing afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, you got to train the dog after you punish him.
Yeah.
I didn't have the chance to do that. I kind of wanted to do like a buddy.
Also, Colton is Clinton. Just
Colton.
Yeah.
Still Colton.
Yeah.
In Botan and in me too. It's Colton.
It's fine.
I just kind of want to take him along, like, and I'll do like RP with him at places.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to like, you get that, you do that, you did all right. Let's go figure this out. Or,
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'll go talk to this guy over here, and you go talk to that guy over here.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to do stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting way to facilitate it. It's like, it's akin to like when you have kids and you're at McDonald's and you make your kids go up and order the food to try to get them socializing and used to talking to adults. It's like as a player being like, all right, come on now, little Jimmy, talk to the DM. RP with the DM. You're alone. You're isolated. You need to do the RP. You're stuck in. But it is still similar.
Also, like a little bit of the push and pull back and forth of character, like building your backstory and like going with the events that happen. That moment was also a little bit of a motivation for Clinton having the backstory that he has used multiple names, like multiple aliases throughout his adventure. Yeah. And just Colton being one of the ones that he used the longest around.
Yeah,
build.
You were Clinton.
Yeah.
Your father figure missaid your name once in play, and you're like, you know what, actually, that's because that used to be my name, and now every town I go to, I'm going to give them a new name.
Yeah.
Come on, Billy.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting question of like how much do people, because I do think that a lot of people initiate a campaign not giving a flying fuck about the other player characters. There's a lot of like, it's an unfortunate thing. And I see it in all three of us as well. Every time we play, it's the main character syndrome isn't just like, that's not just isolated to disruptive or chaotic or bad, otherwise bad behavior, bad players. Unfortunately, there is a thing about D&D that really cultivates that main character syndrome thing. And you have to actively, as a player, work against everything that leads you to that. Otherwise, you will have it.
I mean, it's the game is power fantasy. The game is playing out a character, and it's
when your only interaction is your abilities. You're constantly thinking about your character sheet, your character arc, why you're here. And oftentimes in player parties, G&G was actually kind of an exception because you guys were, it's the type of hook where you guys were already friends.
Yeah.
But most hooks, you're not already friends, or you're barely just friends, or you're not friends at all. And in any of those scenarios, it just naturally will lead you to thinking you're the main character for everybody. Yeah. I see it in every single player. And you have to actively work against that to not be the main character. And I think RPing with each other and learning about each other's backstories and who they are and what makes them tick over time. I'm not saying session 1 you have to sit at a campfire for 4 hours learning about everything, but just in pieces. Make sure those moments happen.
Yeah.
You want to be a better player? Start thinking about your fellow players. You want to be a better player for both yourself, your table, and your DM? Just look for little snippets that might lead to dialogue about another player character's backstory.
Yeah.
Without any expectations to share yours. But if you can get in a deep conversation and you can relate somehow and share things about your backstory, who cares if it eats up a chunk of the session time? Your table is going to be so much better moving forward.
Yeah.
Be receptive about the aspects of a character, of your fellow players' characters that aren't on their character sheet.
Yeah. And also, kind of like I was talking earlier, although this is a less cheesed version of it, where I was saying like all of the secrets and whatnot and blah, 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 where I was talking about like, oh yeah, like I kind of like full communication and those conversations to happen above table and the expectation that players just don't meta as if they don't know it. This isn't necessarily meta that we're talking about, but it's a better way of breaching that surface, which is like the more you communicate with your fellow player characters on a level where you're learning about them, the better idea you have of that player's perspective of their character, which makes for better play moving forward. It helps you facilitate, like the more I mean, I wasn't a player in this game, but the more I understood Bot and Bill, the better I was at playing with Bot and Bill.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, let me reword that in a more important way. The more I understood what Gray's perspective of Bot and Bill was, the better I was at interacting with Bot and Bill. And you can do that player to player by just learning about your fellow players' backstories.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Backstories. They're important.
Yeah.
They're
fun.
important. I don't understand why people like to skate past them.
Probably one of the most important aspects of any character.
Yeah.
I did see a meme recently, a short, where somebody making fun of the idea of character backstory, where somebody took over the table and then talked about their backstory for 2 or 3 hours. So I think there's a meme. There is a version of like talking to a player about their backstory, and they get very long-winded about it.
Sure.
I think there's a version of that is semi-common, but also like, yeah, I don't know. I'll take that hit to get the RP. Like if that happens every once in a while, sure. But also like, for me at least, I love the war game aspect of D&D. I love the chess play of D&D. The hook for D&D, the thing that makes me like D&D is the RP. Yeah. It's the role playing.
I feel like me and you, Nix, particularly, though I would put this onto all of us, but I feel like I think one of the things that makes us so willing to play whatever the DM's hook is that we don't really, truly give a fuck what the story is. We just want to exist within the world, within our characters.
Yeah.
If we could just exist in RP the whole time, who cares what the story? Like, we're heroes, cool. My character's a hero. Do I get to sit here and talk about dragons and shit for 4 or 5 hours? I'm into it,
dude. If Gray was tomorrow was like, hey, I got a new story idea, cool, or it's a new long form campaign. All right, where are we playing? All right, you guys are going to be children chimney sweepers in the 1400s England.
Yeah.
I'm in. Yeah. All right, cool. Like any superpower? Nope. You're just children who are going to get black lung.
And and the whole time, Gray is going to be trying to drag us to progress through the story because me and Nix will 100% just stand there in a fucking chimney for 2 or 3 hours role playing at each other.
It's like, guys, we really got to move. It's like, sorry, dude, you put this here. You put this chimney here. How
2
are we
months
not
later,
gonna...
you're working on your 3rd chimney.
Yeah. I actually, and in terms of that, like my willingness and will and wants to just exist within the world, I am also perfectly okay with, like, I don't even need to create a character. If you wanted to give me, if you wanted to give me a character build and tell me, I come up with the backstory and personality, cool. If you want to tell me the personality and backstory, and I just come up with the character build based on it, cool. If you want to give me a character build, personality, and backstory, I'm cool. I'll live in that character for a year and a half. I'm cool with it. I don't care. I just want to role play. I don't care what it is. I do find that I've talked about it on the podcast before. It's why I said I would be very much interested in playing that solo campaign. Mm-hmm.
He's made it very clear.
It's not going to be me.
Not for you.
Yeah, it's not for me. But no, I'm actually really fascinated with the idea of someone giving me a character, because I feel like that would get me out of the comfort zone of where I normally would be creatively. Like even when I'm trying to get out of my own comfort zone. But like if someone wrote like I had to be a chaotic character, whatever chaotic alignment, I'd be like, I would get so deep into like, oh my God, I would never do that. How do I do that? And I would find it so fascinating to have to do that.
Sure.
So like, yeah, I don't even care about creating a character. I just want to role play.
That's funny. All right.
Yeah. Anything else? Backstories?
I feel good about it.
Yeah. All
right. So my character's backstory is...
Well, thank you for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit bells, go to our website, go to our Patreon, become members, give us money, and then we could do cooler stuff. Yeah. I'm Sav. You can find my links in the description. I run games over at startplaying.games. Feel free to join one of my active campaigns or otherwise make a custom request. I do take custom requests, and I'd be happy to have you.
I'm Nix. I have my link in the description. It's old YouTube videos if you guys want to go through the library and check those out. Also working and crawling our way to the 100 subscribers. We're at like 23, I think, right now. So, we're
not crawling, clawing our way.
Yeah. We're inchworming there. We're slowly dragging this half a corpse to the 100 subscriber mark.
Clearly, all of our backstories is that we are non-likable personalities that shouldn't be like radio personalities, and that's why it's been such a slow crawl.
The real story is we're not good at this, and we should take the hint.
No. We just keep RPing our way through it.
Okay, yeah. You just keep going.
Yeah, our flaw is we don't quit.
Not attribute. Flaw. Great.
Greythorn, there's also links in the description somewhere. There are some old games that I've played. Hopefully I'll be starting up a new one if Thursdays work for me. God, it's gonna suck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Give me some backstories of your characters, and why do your kobolds have such fucked up backstories? Let's do that. In the comments, do that.
Yeah. You know what I want to see in the comments? I want to see non-orphan backstories.
That's a good one.
And I'd also like to see you guys count 1, 2, 3 or whatever if your backstories are orphans. Like if your comment number 4 and the person before you was an orphan, just the number 3 is all I want to see from the person before you, and the number 4 is all I want to see from you. I just want an up count of orphan stories. All right. Thank you for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. We will catch you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.